walking in a country road, and I've been chasing after my shadow.
Welcome back to the Camino Podcast, episode 110. I'm Dave Whitson.
Nobody asked me my name.
The Camino Industrial Complex is booming. I could fill episodes for the next 10 years with discussions of newly developed pilgrimage routes around the world, and I would still have more ground to cover. Some of those routes, of course, are based on established tradition and a lengthy historical track record. Others are, shall we say, a bit of a stretch, requiring some creative interpretation to legitimize their standing as a pilgrimage. One country, though, that has no shortage of historically significant pilgrimage shrines is Ireland, in part because Ireland is stuffed to the brim with saints. And it's only natural that the modern Camino phenomenon would take deep root in this fertile soil as well, as there are long-standing ties between Ireland and Compostela and Galicia. In this episode, we'll explore the fruits of those developmental initiatives across the island, beginning with Michael Walsh of the Camino Society Ireland. His organization has launched an impressive initiative, the Celtic Camino, featuring 9 different short pilgrimages across Ireland, which then feed into the Spanish walk from A Coruña to Santiago. After that, I'm joined by Ingrid Boyle, who is part of the committee behind the Kerry Camino, one of the most popular of these routes, located in southwest Ireland on the Dingle Peninsula. You may not be surprised to learn that Guinness, rain, and jovial people feature prominently in the conversations that follow. It's also a big hour for St. Brendan the Navigator, and a bad one for Christopher Columbus. It's been a rough couple decades for Columbus, I suppose. But that doesn't matter. What does is Ireland. So let's get going. I hope you enjoy. Michael Walsh, I'm so happy to be able to talk with you because I realized took a step back and I was looking at all of the episodes I have done. I have badly neglected Ireland over the years, and I'm hoping to start to correct that with our conversation here.
Thanks, Dave. Greetings from Ireland. I'm living in a place in Thurles in Tipperary, in the centre of Ireland. We were in the First World War famous song, It's a Long Way to Tipperary.
Yeah.
Even though it originated in London, it's about Tipperary. And I'm originally from the west coast of Ireland, in Galway, on the Wild Atlantic Way. I keep telling people I'm in exile in Tipperary. where your place of birth is very important to the Irish people in sport and, in conversation. I'll always be a Galway man, but I'm adopted down here. My kids in Galway, our jersey colour is maroon and white. Down here, it's blue and gold. And my kids, unfortunately, wear the blue and gold. They've left me, but not to worry. We enjoy the sport as well. And we enjoy the fun and the camaraderie of it. And as we say here, the crack, the fun of it. I've been a member of the Camino Society, since 2013. I started doing the Camino back in 2007. Purely just for reference, a very good friend of mine had passed away, and 2 friends over a weekend, and one of them had always been talking about doing the Camino. And at the funeral, another buddy of mine, we said, do you know what? Let's go and do the Camino. We hadn't got a clue what it was about. That's to be honest. We overpacked. We brought enough gear to supply a small hospital in Africa. We had all of this stuff with us. And our flew out to Santiago from Dublin, made our way to Syria, and turned around and started to walk back, carefully discarding kilos of luggage as we went along, like most new pilgrims do. We were no different. And we eventually reached Santiago. And as I said, that's when the bug got into your system. Now, I will tell one story about that, if you bear with me. I was there for my 50th birthday. Every time we went into a bar, which being Irish, we decided to visit them. I was wondering why people were telling me how well I was looking for a guy on his birthday. He told them all I was 60. Thus began the love affair with Spain, and in particular with Galicia. And I've been going back almost consistently every year since.
It's fantastic. I found you through your affiliation with the Irish Camino Society. And it's always good for me when I'm starting out in a new place to connect with the local organizations that are really doing the work. So could you tell me about the Irish Camino Society and what kinds of work it does?
The society was founded back in 92. So it's over 30 years old at this stage. It was a group of people who they had been fundraising for a multiple sclerosis charity, and they were doing walks in Spain, and they felt that there was more to it than, when they came home, what could they do? How could they encourage people to do something similar? Not just for charity, but just for themselves at their own. So it was set up back in 92. It's a voluntary group, completely manned by volunteers. We're based in Dublin, in St. James's Church in Dublin, which is next door to the Guinness Brewery, by coincidence. You couldn't make this stuff up now, so bear with me. And there's a second St. James's Church across the road, which is now a distillery. So when you get to Dublin, you'll have to come and visit. We're officially connected with the cathedral in Spain and the Pilgrim's Office. We have our own Irish passport credential, an official one. We run an information centre in the church, in an offshoot of the church at the front door, from about Easter right through to the end of October, early into November. 3 days a week, manned by volunteers from 11 o'clock until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And there we give information on the different Caminos and help people plan their Camino. All the people who volunteer have completed a portion of the Camino, if not, different Caminos. We run practical information days then throughout the country in libraries, in hotels, in meeting rooms in the evening. We don't get everywhere, but we do our best. And all of these things are free. There's no charge at all for these. We also run events for our members then. We try and have a monthly walk on one of the Irish pilgrim routes. That will bring in maybe between 30 and 40, maybe sometimes 50 people get together, they carpool and they come along. And they're a day out, they're a day of fun. It's reconnecting with your friends. I always say to people as well, it's a great way to test out your gear, your walking shoes, your backpack, getting used to it for doing the Camino itself. So it's really, we're giving information to people about the Camino. We've about 500 members. Not all are active, as you can imagine, but in Dublin in particular, we have the volunteers man the office, which is, it's a drop-in centre. And international tourists, when they come to Dublin, it's on the tourist trail. And they come in, and many of them collect a passport there or get the idea. And it's amazing how many Spaniards come in and say, they see the yellow arrow outside, to come in. They get a great kick out of that. As an organisation, we're non-political. We're not-for-profit. We are non-sectarian and non-denominational. So we accept people for who they are. We don't put conditions on it. And it's a 32-county organisation in Ireland, which is very important to us. It is the island of Ireland that we encompass for all of our activities. We're really looking to encourage people to do the Camino, look at the rich history of the Camino and its connection with Ireland as well, and the Spanish culture as well. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
That's great.
We enjoy each other's company, and we love giving the information talks. They're great fun. We like to link in them with other groups in Ireland. Pilgrim Paths, which is the kind of looks totally at Irish pilgrim, and we keep association with the Spanish Embassy, the Spanish-speaking groups in Dublin. They're the connections that we have.
Spain has obviously led the way in the resurgence of European pilgrimage. People often just sort of equate pilgrimage with the Camino. But Ireland has a very prominent pilgrimage tradition in its own right. And you've touched on that briefly, but let's go more into that. Could you talk about the historic importance of pilgrimage in Ireland?
Looking back on our history, it always has been important. We were the land of saints and scholars, which are in association with pilgrimage. Irish pilgrims moved from here to Scotland, Columba, St. Brendan, the navigator, who we believe was the first man to get to the New World, despite what the Spaniards say. But we joke about that at times, but there is a possibility. And in Ireland itself, then, with the advent of Christianity, a lot of the pagan ways were changed and symbols were adopted by Christianity. The old walks and the old pilgrimage routes, even though they weren't called pilgrimage routes back in that time, they were adopted because people walked to a place of pilgrimage, from a place of pilgrimage. So a lot of the routes around Ireland that we'll be discussing, St. Kevin's Way, St. Declan's Way, St. Finbarr's, these were all Irish saints. And these were routes that people took to a place of pilgrimage. And then pilgrims left Ireland to go. Now, back in medieval times, you had to have money to go on pilgrimage. So it was a lot of the chieftains or the lords that went on pilgrimage to Spain. They went to Rome. They went to Jerusalem when it was open back in those days. And they would have been the three top ones, I think. Even today, they're probably three of the top routes for Christian pilgrimage anyway. So a lot of our routes are associated with our saints. They're associated, for example, in the west of Ireland, there's a pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick, which is the mountain that St. Patrick built a church on. And that is kind of one of our premier routes for pilgrimage. And then there are local small routes in towns and villages that have monastic settlements. And people then there were healing wells, and it's like a good dinner. There's a lot of ingredients in there.
One of the things that captured my attention when I was looking at the Irish Camino Society site is the Celtic Camino, which maybe is a little misleading just because it suggests there's one of them, but there's actually this whole network or collection, I suppose,
Correct,
that
yeah.
you have been working on. And you've alluded to pieces of that, but could you talk more about what the Celtic Camino entails?
I'd say it's about 7 or 8 years ago. We were approached by the authorities, and I'll give it a general, in Santiago and at Coruña. What they were looking for from us and from other associations throughout Europe, Coruña had been kind of left out of the people heading to Santiago because it's only 75 kilometers from Santiago. And to achieve your Compostela, which is your indulgence, you have to do a minimum of 100 kilometers. So the solution they came up with was to approach the associations in England, Ireland, Holland, throughout the world, in their own country. If you could identify routes of 25 plus kilometers that people would walk in their own country and be certified, and they could continue then their journey to A Coruña and only A Coruña, and restart their route in A Coruña and follow the rules then of the 2 stamps per day on your pilgrim's passport. You must have an official pilgrim's passport, which is number 1, and that's stamped in Ireland. We came up with the idea then that we would do a certificate for people, and we call it the Celtic Camino. So we were asked to identify routes in Ireland to have an association with pilgrimage. And initially we looked at 9, and they're spread not totally throughout the country because a lot of the Irish pilgrim routes were less than 25 kilometers. So we identified the ones that were over, plus ones that there's a group in Ireland called Pilgrim Paths, and they have a certificate that you walk 5 pilgrim routes in Ireland, and it brings you to a total of just over 100 kilometers, and they award a certificate. So they had a stamping system in place. Signage was in place, easily identifiable routes for people to walk. Walks that have been walked by Irish pilgrims for many years. And they also had groups, associations, local groups who maintained these routes. So we approached them, and they were glad to let us use these routes. So that's what we did. We identified these routes. There are 9 in total. They're spread throughout the country. I'm trying to think of them here. Like Croagh Patrick Heritage Trail in the west of Ireland, Tócar Pádraig, which is Pádraig's route. That's from an old abbey all the way across Mayo. There's a route around Dublin, in Dublin, from Bray, south of Dublin city, and that brings you back into St. James's Church, where we have our office. And that's a city walk. But it goes through very historical points, including the River Liffey, which was an embarkation point for pilgrims going to Spain. The Boyne Valley, which was a completely new one, it's north of Dublin. It's a circular route. It starts in a town called Drogheda, but Drogheda also was a place where people left by boat for Spain. St. Kevin's Way in Wicklow, which is the famous one, it's across Wicklow. St. Finbarr's down the southwest in Cork. Now, the people in Cork call it, they're the true Republic of Ireland. That's the true capital, but that's an in-house joke for your Irish listeners. They'll love that. But that's a beautiful one across. That's over 37 kilometres long. There's a Kerry Camino in County Kerry, down the southwest, and it starts in Tralee, but it finishes in Dingle on the coast at the Church of St. James. And Dingle was also one of the ancient routes from Ireland where people left by boat. Recently, in recent years, a group sailed a small canvas navo, 23 foot long, from Dublin to Santiago on the Celtic Camino.
Okay.
And rowed and sailed it. And if you've never seen the film or anything about it, you have to see this. This was modern day, wonderful stuff. That's why I say the Kerryman definitely must have got to America first, because these were not Kerryman. And then there's St. Declan's Way, which is our longest one we have. It's 111 kilometres long. Starts very near where I am here in Tipperary in Cashel, which is the seat of the ancient chiefs of Munster. And it combines St. Declan and St. Patrick because they met in Cashel. But St. Declan came from the coast up. But most people nowadays start in Cashel and walk to the coast, Ardmore. And again, you're on the boat and you're heading for Spain. And that is a very popular route at the moment, as is, I'd say, the Boyne Valley and the Bray one. And then there's a route which is developing very, very well, Sliabh or Sheenshire, the way of our ancestors. And that's in Kerry, West Kerry as well. It's right on looking out on the place where we believe our myths and our history, that the Miletians came into Ireland from A Coruña. This is going back to way pre-medieval times, and they fought with the Irish warriors all the way across Ireland. But that's a strong connection with Spain. Like if you go to A Coruña, you'll see Brogan's Tower. It's a very much, they believe that from the Brogan's Tower you can look and you should be able to see Ireland. But you want to have great eyesight, Specsavers. And we're developing another one up in the north of Ireland in Coal Island. It's almost ready to go. Probably launch it this year. And we've had many groups have come to us and said they would like to have another route. But one of the things about these need local ownership.
Yeah.
As a voluntary group, and that's what might put some people off. And we like that they are in one way or another associated with pilgrimage. It's a spiritual journey for many people, and it's important that we encompass that. You just can't pick 25 kilometers and say this is a journey that people would like. And it must have some history, and it must be a journey you'd like to take in your own country. So we gave it the name Celtic Camino because you have the English Camino, which starts in Ferrol. We're Celts with our Celtic brothers in Galicia, and we decided that we'd give it our own name. And it means that you get your passport. It can be, if you're, for example, an American coming to do it, you can bring your American passport, which is the American pilgrim's passport, and use it. Once it's an official passport accepted by the office in Santiago. We have a range of Celtic passports in our shop, some in Gaelic, all beautiful calligraphy. They're a work of art, to be honest. And I really mean that. We have an artist who put them together for us. And you get that. You walk in Ireland, you get the stamp on it. All these places have a stamping station, start and finish. And if they haven't got them, they will have them in 26. But we as we say to people, it's an honor thing. If you don't walk it, you just say, I'd stamp it. That's of no benefit to anybody. So you get that. We will give you a certificate then to say you've completed it. Get on your Aer Lingus to Santiago, get your train up to A Coruña, and in, I would say, 4 days it takes to walk from A Coruña to Santiago. That's that's allowing for most people can achieve it in the 4 days.
Yep.
And it's ideal for people who just want to get a taster of the Camino. You can get to Santiago, do your 4 days walking, and maybe spend a couple of days in Santiago, enjoying the beautiful city itself, the old part of it. Good food, good wine, good company. What more could you want?
I know the vision is to walk one of these routes in Ireland and then push on to Coruña. But it also seems like a brilliant way for someone coming in from outside to experience Ireland by popping around. And, sometimes one of the downsides, maybe mini downsides of walking a branch of the Camino is, you spend a week and maybe you're entirely in Galicia the whole time, different towns, but consistent landscape. But this is a chance to just pop around and see very different parts of a country over the course of 2-3 weeks.
It's ideal because there are flights into Ireland, especially from the States. I mean, they're numerous. You can fly into Shannon, Dublin, and getting from Ireland to Santiago is easy enough. Now, I know next year for around the month of May, Santiago Airport is closed, but finds an alternative. We're still working it out. But I even see from Ireland, we normally flew from Dublin Airport. Next year, in the south of the country, Cork, city of Cork, they have flights now to Santiago as well.
Okay.
So we're getting the choices on it. And as I say, it's especially people with if they have an Irish connection, it's a great chance to come back or Irish diaspora to come back and maybe meet up with some family members or search for them and go on to Spain. It's a good holiday. We're a welcoming race of people, you know, and I guarantee you they'll enjoy. Don't come for the weather now. That's what I'm just going to say to you. Yeah, when we get a great summer, we get a great summer. But remember, as we know, in Galicia, there's the big Atlantic out to the west, and it loves to come in and drop a few buckets of water on you every now and then. It's no different in Ireland. It's a lovely opportunity to do these walks. And there are many other walks besides these, you know, for people. There is a book,
Great Irish Pilgrim Journeys,
by John G. O'Dwyer. And it has the Camino ones in it as well, or some of the Camino ones. It's the background, the introduction, the maps. It's a fantastic guide. They also have pilgrimpath.ie. It is loaded with information.
I know it's outside of your purview. You're focused on these short 1 to 2 day, primarily 1 to 2 day local pilgrimages. Are there longer pilgrimage routes being developed in Ireland?
If you check, for example, the St. Declan's Way, it's 111 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very well organized group down there. They arrange during the summertime. At weekends, they organize walks. What they do is they organize over the weekend, maybe to do 2 legs of it. That'll be averaging about 20 kilometers per leg. And they organize a bus that when you leave your car at where you're going to, they bring you back the 20 kilometers by bus and you walk to your car, so that if you're a straggler getting in late, you're not holding everybody up waiting for the bus to bring you back. That's very well organized. There are also routes there's a route through the country from West Cork all the way up to the Giant's Causeway, but that's a self-guided walk.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would say the downside, being honest about it, is that accommodation is unlike Spain. It's not as plentiful, and it can be expensive. It's standard B&B. The St. Declan's Way, they have a list of accommodation, reasonably priced accommodation. But that is one of the negatives. And I'll be honest about that. I wouldn't like people to think that it's the same as going to Spain and, you know, you have an albergue that'll take you up, or a municipality. But at the same time, look, you got to sleep somewhere. And then a lot of people on these long walks, they actually hike and they bring their bed on their back. Or they cycle it as well, which is another way of doing it. And there's a St. Patrick's Way up around Armagh. They're well-marked trails. But again, they're self-guided, any of the longer ones. The one going up from the spine of the country, it encompasses about 12 local walks that are marked. Like there's one near me here in Tipperary called Tipperary Way. It takes part of that. And they've used existing routes that are there. It has become very popular. It is the cheapest form of training or of fitness you can do. You need, as we know, you need a good pair of shoes, good socks. The gear, it doesn't have to be overly expensive. Just make sure you have a good waterproof for your bag in case of rain. And then on the sunny days, you just put on the shorts and off you go. And good hostelries along the way to enjoy.
You've mentioned a couple of the challenges with Ireland: affordable accommodation, the weather. What do you love about walking in Ireland? What does Ireland have, maybe even that Spain doesn't?
People, the people you meet. It's probably one of the most important things. I'd like to think that we're a very welcoming country. People will stop and talk to you. And if you have any Irish connections at all, they'll try and find a relative somewhere. You know, when the former President Obama came here, so we took the O and made him Obama. He's Irish. So it's a welcoming place. And as I say, you get you get the great weather, you get the poor weather, but in those cases, it's just about the waterproof you have. If you have good gear, you can wander along. Like one of the most joyful things you'll ever get is if you get into after a day walking and the weather's not with you, get into a good accommodation, good shower, good meal, good food, good company. That's one of the rewards of it. And even in our summertime, wintertime, the sunsets can be fantastic in the wildness of it. There's a wildness to it as well. You know, language is easy because we speak English. Maybe we talk too fast or maybe too of our own accents locally. But, you know, for English-speaking countries, it's very easy to go home along the way. And as I say, it's open to people. It's a welcoming country. We enjoy our visitors coming here.
Like you, I did a lot of my walking. I started out my walking in Spain. My Spanish is pretty good, but certainly I'm not fluent. And then I went and I did a long walk in the US, and it is a fundamentally different experience walking in a place where you are fluent in the language and you can easily strike up conversations, not just surface level, but deeper ones with anyone you run into along the way. I think everyone should do it at some point.
I started a few years ago, it's 10 years ago, in Seville on my own in February. Big mistake. It was just a month too early. I met, between Seville and Salamanca, I met 3 pilgrims. 2 of them didn't speak English. The third one was an evangelical minister who tried to convert me to some form of it. And I had restaurant Spanish. I could order a meal, but I had no one to talk to. And I found it soul destroying. That's, to be honest. It was just too much. It's great. I picked up a little bit of Spanish, but I'm just not good at that. I've been lucky when I've walked with a small group. We've always had 1 or 2 very good Spanish speakers. And I suppose the laziness in me comes out that they'll do all the chatting up, and the talking, and I do the organizing, and that's their job. It's for my own shame. I feel it myself that I should be better. I've been going there for 18 years. I am currently using a book, a Spanish language book, for 7-year-olds to try and improve. I said, I think you try too much. If you get the basics right, and then just add to it, and forget about the grammar. You can always put today, tomorrow, yesterday for when you're describing what you're talking about. If you can get the gist of what people are saying. But I think it's very respectful when you go to a country that you make some effort. I would learn all the greetings in Spanish, how to say thank you, the normal things that I think people should do. I think it's very respectful to a nation, because the Spaniards, especially, Galicia in particular, I found they are the most helpful people. They'll help you along and they'll guide you. And if they're shouting at you, it's probably because you're going the wrong direction. You're leaving the town, going down the hill instead of up the hill. That's been my experience anyway.
What's your next walk?
Oh, I don't know. I have to go back and finish. When I went back to Salamanca the following year, or 2 years later, again, it was the right time to go, but the weather turned on us. And we picked up all sorts of chest infections. And I planned to go for 2.5 weeks. And after 8 days, I just abandoned, because you find that the weather was bad. And then the places we were staying were cold at night.
Yeah.
It's geared for the heat. No, you don't need heat at night, but we needed it. So I want to go back and finish that. Like, I've walked most of the routes. I madly enough, in 2013, left where I'm talking from now, my house, and I walked to Santiago.
Wow.
So that was the longest route I ever did. That was 100 days on the road with a friend of mine, and Yvonne Tyler, the two of us walked it. And we did it for autism charities. And that was the reason. Well, it was one of the reasons behind it. Also, we got fed up of hearing all these Europeans saying, I walked from my house. And you make a promise, they say, look, we could do that. And 1 more bottle of wine. Of course we could do that. And you commit to it. And we were joined by our families and our friends. 26 people at different stages came with us, joined us for a week or 2, including one of my own sons. He came out for the last few weeks of it, and we walked into Santiago together. Shortly after we left to Santiago, that dreadful train crash, we were just home at that stage, just had arrived home. I think it took the shine off it, but it was great. We did it started in Holy Cross Abbey here, which is a Cistercian monastery only 4 miles from me, and it's a place of pilgrimage. And we got a lovely send off by family and friends there. And we were given by the community out there 2 little wooden crosses, which is the cross of Holy Cross. And we gave one to the bishop on the altar in Santiago when we got there. And the second one he blessed, and we had to bring back 2 the Holy Cross. And it's now in the sacristy in the Holy Cross.
That's amazing.
Along with a compostela made up for the 2 of us. I warn people that if you are going to go on the Camino, it will not be your last one. It's only the first.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me, and thanks to the Irish Camino Society for all of your work. I know, of course, it's first and foremost for Irish pilgrims, but as an outsider trying to think about how to get my feet wet in Irish pilgrimage, it's great. It's exciting to have all of these options available. And I also love the fact that you're just taking a small poke at the Camino Inglés by rebranding Coruña as the Celtic Camino. I appreciate that.
Opportunity. Look, it is the Celtic Camino. You have to take it on board. I mean, just the other one is just because they speak English. We speak Hiberno English. Which is much. Think of all the famous writers in Ireland, songsmiths. it's a lovely way to connect. And we always say you're guaranteed on these routes, when you get to Santiago, you're following in the footsteps of our ancestors. That's what we feel strongly about that this is, and as I say, I would tell people, have a look at the film, The Camino Voyage, of the Irishman who rowed a light Navo curragh, small canoe type boat, all the way down the coast of Ireland, across through Wales, down through the west coast of France, came along the whole north and arrived in A Coruña. Our connections are very strong with it. Galicians, I think there's definitely been a connection. There's been a connection with that part of Spain, with Ireland. Where I come from in the west of Ireland, we have a famous place called the Spanish Arch, the Latin section, and there's been a connection with trade throughout the years on the west coast of Ireland. This was the original routes for you didn't have the good roads, you went by boat. And as I say, I also tell people, have a look at pilgrimpaths.ie for more pilgrim routes in Ireland. Books by well-known writer John G. O'Dwyer. They're well written, they're a very good guide, and they whet the appetite for more.
So Ingrid Boyle, thanks for speaking with me today about the Kerry Camino. To get us started, let's just lead with this. What's your role with the Kerry Camino?
I would have been a founding member of the committee. I suppose we're a registered charity, we're a volunteer group. My official role, I suppose, is finance officer. Really, we're a small committee, so everybody helps out with everything, really. And I suppose I started getting involved in it, really. I've been a walker on, for the last 30 years, just trail walking, hill walking around Kerry generally. Always travelled a bit with it, got a great love of it. And I suppose, like a lot of people, it probably was that the movie Emilio Estevez, yep. Martin Sheen, and suddenly become aware of pilgrimage and that people are actually still doing it. I suppose I would have always thought this was something from ancient times, and it was, of course, and that people weren't really doing it anymore. And lots of Irish people started going, thousands really, to Spain. Mm-hmm. And now I hadn't done anything like that. Most of the walking I would do would be loop walking around here, not linear walking, not for days and days like you've done. But I suppose it was part of the time, the financial crisis had happened as well. Things weren't good in the county. We're very tourism based here. The route was always there. And not many people were using it, really. It's a beautiful route. It's a 3-day walk from Tralee Town to Dingle Town, which is right out in what we call a peninsula. I think you guys call it a cape, right out there. Next stop is America, right out in the Atlantic. And there's always been a history of association with Spain, with different parts of Ireland. Galway is another city that would have a strong connection with the routes to Spain. Dublin itself, I don't know if you've ever heard of Guinness. It's a very famous drink, and it comes brewed in what's known as St. James's Gate in Dublin. And there was always historical links with Spain with that as well. So I suppose we just kind of thought, wouldn't it be a good idea to revive it a little bit and get people down here as opposed to just going to Spain? And just showing off. We're very proud of the walk. Show it off a little bit. Our scenery is beautiful. People are lovely, and that's basically how we got started, I suppose,
Yeah, years ago, many years ago now, I biked around the Dingle Peninsula on what is referred to as what's known as the Dingle Way. I had no idea that I was also on a pilgrimage. When exactly did this reemergence or development of the Kerry Camino as a pilgrimage route happen?
I suppose about 2012, really. We kind of got together and thought, why not revive it, get it going? And we just started really small, just set out, advertise it a little bit around the town. A group gathered around the church in St. John's, and 20 or 30 of us set up on the first leg of it. A lot of bells and whistles, and we were all very excited. But then just to kind of keep it going from then, we're going 11 or 12 years now. And really it was more to promote it to other people. And one of the big problems, while it was signposted a bit, it was all very subtle. There just wasn't enough signage at all. Really, people were always getting lost. And, so little bits like that, just to make it more user friendly, I guess, make people aware of it. So what we started doing then is we started running a 3-day walking festival, getting, people down for that. And that kind of funds us then for the passports, the certificates of completion, and signage, really. Signage, because you can never have enough, There's always one little corner that somebody will just go left instead of right, or, there's always something, or, to keep them up. And I suppose also to keep an eye on the surface, make people aware of it, if trees have fallen or if there's any issues like that. It's easier for us to kind of get it done. We're on the ground. Instead of trying to get the council to help us out and stuff like that, it just takes too long. Just do it.
In my mind, it's a complicated process to literally create a pilgrimage route from scratch. You've just mentioned some of the common parts of it. You have to have waymarking. You have to have, or it's nice to have, a passport and a certificate at the end. What else goes into the creation of a pilgrimage route?
I suppose you have to have the historical links, first of all, and they were already there. It was just to kind of learn about it ourselves, really. As I said, we started in St. John's Church in Tralee. We finished at St. James's Church in Dingle. And historically, if you ever saw a picture of it, it is actually built in the style of a Spanish church and was actually built by the Spanish who were trading in the area. And I suppose our other big link, really religious-wise, would be St. Brendan. He'd be the patron saint of Kerry. He founded the cathedral in Ardfirk, which is just 10 miles away from me here. He was known as St. Brendan the Navigator. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he did discover America, apparently, along with the Vikings and Christopher Columbus and many others. But yeah, he was a seafarer and, had many travels. So, there's that aspect of it as well. So he would have left, let's say, Tralee and travelled pretty much on this route. This is the old road, if you like, the old route that would have been travelled by horses and donkeys years and years ago. So it was always there. It was just to kind of clear the path again and make people aware of it, and signage, as I say,
I think I read as well on your site that there was an archaeological dig that revealed something important.
That's right. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Actually, it was in Ardfirk where the cathedral was. So it is a brooch with a scallop shell, and it's a pewter brooch. It's actually up in the Irish Museum in Dublin, the National Museum, I should say. It's a pewter brooch, and it shows the scallop shell and a little pilgrim on it. And it was discovered in 1990s, I think, in the foundations of the old abbey in Tralee. So that's another, link that shows it was used in that way.
Does this literally overlap with part of the Dingle Way, or does it just
it does, yeah. It is the same route in actual fact. I suppose we link it between the two churches. We finish it in Dingle, whereas you can actually, as you say, go around the peninsula with it as well. I'm delighted you've done it. I didn't think you would have even heard of it, to be honest with you. That's amazing.
It's been a long time, but yeah, that's a beautiful, I mean, there's not a bad part of the country, right? But it certainly is one of the many beautiful parts of Ireland.
It is, yeah. We're very proud of it, to be honest.
You mentioned that you offer group walks, and I see this with some newly developed pilgrimage routes where they lean heavily on the group concept. But this is a route that can be walked either in those formal group walks or independently, correct?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. We do one group walk, as I say, it's guided. It's just to raise finances, really, and it makes us completely independent. But it's walked all year round. I mean, I get emails all over the world, really, at this stage. And I suppose that's the other thing that we do is we try and support visitors to the area, give them accommodation advice, just where route notes, where to start, where to finish, that kind of thing. Also, particularly if it's women walking on their own, I always give out a phone number. I've never been wrong, to be honest with you, but it's just a feeling of security, I think, for people. Will I be safe on my own? It wouldn't be as busy, anything like the Camino in Spain. There are people on it, but it could be hours on your own as well. So just to give people a sense of comfort, a bit of confidence, I suppose, as well, if people are trying it for the first time, walking on their own. That's kind of the support we give as well.
Do you have a sense of how many people are walking the Kerry Camino in a given year?
It's very difficult. We have a counter of this year, so we're going to see, but definitely there's about 5,000, we think.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's really built up. I mean, to be honest, when we started, 100 maybe, like really. But you've seen it yourself, the interest now in long distance walking. This is what people are looking for. They're looking for experience as well. There's so much benefit to it. I was looking at your thing, and you have this lovely title. Oh yeah, a medieval cure for modern ills. I think it's perfect, to be honest with you. There's so much benefit, health wise, mentally, and so for me, socially as well. Most of my friendships come from my walking friends, and people meeting people falling into conversation with people on a route for a little while and then maybe falling away again. There's so many benefits to it, really.
Is it mostly Irish folks on the trail?
A lot of Irish people, a lot of Americans, Canadians, Europeans now as well. The Germans love to come here. We have a little airport here, Kerry Airport. We've direct flights in from parts of Europe and the UK, so a lot of walkers from there as well.
Yeah. And is it mostly summer walking or year round? Pretty wet outside of summer, I imagine.
Pretty wet. It can be wet any time here, Dave. I don't recommend it, I suppose, for November, December, January, February, but the rest of the year, no problem. We can have lovely dry weather here in March. And I think the first advice you'll get for traveling in Ireland is bring a raincoat and good shoes, and hey, I've got wet in Spain too. I thought I was worried about sunstroke, but I had 3 days of rain, so it can rain anywhere.
As you look ahead, you're up to 5,000 or so pilgrims in a year, maybe even more. Do you have developmental goals for the Kerry Camino, things that you want to do to help keep it growing and draw more pilgrims to the region?
We never kind of went in for big PR, or now we didn't have the funding for it either, but I always wanted it to kind of develop organically, word of mouth. If people enjoy it, they'll tell other people, that kind of thing. And that is how it's grown. One wouldn't want to be overdeveloped, I feel, as well. And there's other areas to go in the county, in the country, in the world, really. But I want people to enjoy it. We want people to enjoy it. I shouldn't say it is a committee. I want it to be safe. That would be the other thing. And I suppose I do feel it could be better amenitized, a little bit more seating along the way for people just to take a little break, things like that. I suppose we don't have the multiple coffee stops, and people do compare it like it's not exactly like Spain. Nothing will ever be exactly like Spain. It's, you don't have little coffee places and beautiful wine. We don't make our own wine here, so you're not going to get that, in the farmhouse and things like that. But yeah, just maybe more amenitized and people just to be more aware of it as well. And yeah, I suppose just make it more comfortable for people, maybe,
Yeah, a few more creature comforts along the way.
Yeah, just a little bit, maybe,
Yeah. It's funny, there's a tipping point, right? Because you get too many of them and then people will complain that it's too commercialized. But if you don't have enough,
exactly.
The austerity is too much for some people.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. I don't want it to become, just too many people on it, I suppose. And I think you have to be mindful of the environment as well. We're walking to farmers' land really here. You have to be respectful of that. So if there's thousands of people going through, that's going to have an impact on the environment as well. We don't want that.
Well, it's exciting from the outside. One of the things I'm trying to think about right now as I produce new episodes is what are my blind spots? What are the areas, the topics that I've missed? And I have not thought enough about pilgrimage in Ireland, which is, a long traditional home of pilgrimage.
Yeah. For sure.
So it's exciting to see the redevelopment and the energy that's being brought to that now all across your country.
You're familiar with this kind of, this Celtic Camino revival?
Yeah, the network of 9 different routes. Yeah. And then the link to the Celtic Camino in Spain.
It's exciting for us to be part of that. That's really, I suppose it opened us up to a new international visitors, really, to be part of that.
It's a great area, and some people might think, 3 days, that's not very long. But when you think about how it combines with the rest of the Dingle Peninsula, you get to Dingle, rent a bike, go bike the other parts of the Dingle Way. You can really put together a pretty great week, 10 days out in that area. And so it's cool to just know about and have as an option.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Ingrid. Thank you for talking with me about the Kerry Camino and for all your work on it and the committee.
Thank you very much.
I want to circle back to some of the resources that Michael spotlighted in our conversation, as it's a great collection of materials to explore if you want to learn more about walking in Ireland. Pilgrimpath.ie is a great place to start. What's particularly neat about the site is that it not only offers information about a bunch of different routes, but it also features details about upcoming guided walks and other community resources. One of their initiatives is a week-long Irish pilgrim journey. In 2026, it runs from June 13 to 20, and it includes a sequence of guided pilgrimages on 5 different routes. If you want to go deeper, check out Pilgrim Paths in Ireland, a guide, from Sliabh Mish to Skellig Michael by John G. O'Dwyer, Odwyer. It's easy to track down a copy online in print or ebook format, and it includes 20 different short routes. Finally, if you'd like to dive more into the history of Ireland's relationship with the Camino, check out Medieval Irish Pilgrims to Santiago de Compostela by Bernadette Cunningham. That one is a little harder to track down. You'll have to go for a used copy. It's a great resource, though, if you want to better understand the context behind the Celtic Camino. Once you've got those books, the only thing left to do will be to secure your best waterproof gear. And with that, you'll be ready to hit the road to Ireland. That's all for this episode. Thanks again to Michael Walsh. You can find the Camino Society Ireland online at caminosociety.ie. Thanks as well to Ingrid Boyle. You can find out everything you need to know about the Kerry Camino at kerrycamino.com. And that's Kerry. All episodes of the Camino Podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, and YouTube. You can reach me at caminopodcast@gmail.com and through the Camino Podcast Facebook page. You can support the pod on Patreon at patreon.com/Dave Whitson. Back in a few weeks.
Maybe my baby will never see me again.